Majors World Series. In game number 12, the Alabama champions will be the visiting team, and their opponents, the South Carolina champions, will be the home team. We will now introduce the two teams and ask that all players from both teams go to their normal defensive positions on the playing field as their names are called. The coaches for both teams will line up at home plate when their names are called. First, the visiting team for this game, the state champions from Alabama. Number 9, Connor Hoto. Number 2, Trey Scott. Number 1, Reed Quincy. Number 23, Miles Brannon. Number 30, Xander Scoggins. Number 3, Jaden Rabin. Number 18, Bryant Bush. Number 24, Connor McKenzie. Number 13, Easton Boutwell. Number 22, Mason Edwards. Number 16, Will Parker. And number 00, Cole Shaw. Now, the home team for this game, the state champions from South Carolina. Number 2, Ryder Manel. Number 16, P.J. Morlando. Number 14, Mason Salisbury. Number 8, Thayer Tabormina. Number 25, Drew Hayes. Number 0, Cameron Scott. Number 42, Landon Gomes. Number 21, Hunter Gomes. Number 24, Donovan Johnson. Number 34, Charlie Meade. Number 27, Banks Wickersham. And number 9, Micah Anderson. Manager for South Carolina is Mr. John Hayes. Coaches Terry Morlando and Chad Salisbury. And the coaches for Alabama were Carl Bush, Tracy Scott, and Garrett Edwards. Your umpires for this game, behind the plate, Mr. Winston Simmons from Roanoke, Virginia. Errol Daniels from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
That's way
Michael
off.
Caminita from Norco, Louisiana. And Rusty Taylor from Hugh Springs, Texas.
It's our final game of the night, folks. 4 games total, at least on field at number 5 for the DYB Majors World Series. Also, other games going on all across the complex, the Pennington Athletic Complex for AAA and Ozone action. About to get day 2 at least to a conclusion after this game. Alabama and South Carolina, a winner's bracket game coming up, as the winner will face Georgia tomorrow at 8 o'clock right here on field number 5. James Hardy with you, and we'll have that chance as per usual to chime along with me out there at our text hotline that I'll give to you in the bottom of the second inning, but first Alabama will be the visiting team. So Connor Hutto, the second baseman, Trey Scott, the third baseman, and Reed Quincy, the first baseman, will be those first three batters in the order for Alabama as the wind and pitch is downstairs for ball one. 8:17 local time, 7:17 back in the Central Time Zone, the start time. Cameron Scott, the starter for South Carolina, winds and deals the 1-0. That's low, 2-0. We're under mostly clear skies. 80 degrees in Lumberton at this 8 o'clock hour in the Eastern Time Zone as the 2-0 is a strike, 2-1. An awfully hot afternoon earlier. It's 2-1 at the knees for a called strike. Our second game started with temperatures at game time at 92 degrees with about an upper 90s to close to 100-degree heat index as a foul ball sprayed off to the left. But nearly, well, probably about 15 minutes away earlier this afternoon in our third game. Had an approaching thunderstorm that we missed out on, thankfully. Did have a couple of pop-up showers yesterday. 2-2. Low for ball three. So should have another spectacular evening. There is a thunderstorm, probably about a 25-minute drive south and east toward Wilmington, North Carolina, away from here. That's the called strike three on the payoff pitch, as that will set down Connor Hutto to begin the ball game. Looking at the rest of the Alabama lineup, Miles Brandon will be the pitcher at the cleanup spot. Xander Scoggins, the catcher, batting fifth. Jaden Raybon will be batting sixth, and one of the reserves coming in defensively later today. Trey Scott takes low for ball one. Bryant Bush, the shortstop, batting seventh. Connor McKenzie, the center fielder, batting eighth. And Easton Boutwell batting ninth as a tapper foul off to the right side. Mason Edwards, the right fielder, batting 10th. Will Parker, 11th in left field. And Cole Shaw will be batting 12th. One the count and the pitch. Swing and a miss. 1-2. Also probably play a little scoreboard poker with y'all back at home. That's the balls, strikes, and outs, and the jersey number. Swing and a miss at a fastball right down the middle for strike three. And we'll certainly also tell you about our various offerings when it comes to JockJive Sports, and also how you can follow us on social media. Reed Quincy to the plate. We'll also give here in just a second that South Carolina defense as the fastball outside for ball number one. Left fielder is Hunter Gomes. Center fielder is Landon Gomes. And Donovan Johnson in right, the South Carolina outfield. Pitch, a strike call in the outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. Mason Salisbury at third. It'll be Ryder Manal over at short. At second base, Drew Hayes. And the first baseman will be Thayer Tavermina. Behind home plate will be P.J. Morlando. So the count now at 1-2 has South Carolina 1 strike away from a 1-2-3 inning defensively. A foul ball off to the right side as the count goes to 1-2. Infield playing back up the middle. Playing somewhat shallow in center field and really all across the outfield except for left. About medium depth there. 1-2. Called strike three at the knees on a fastball as Reed Quincy goes down looking. As for South Carolina, the starting pitcher Cameron Scott strikes out the side here in the first inning. So no runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left on base. We're through 1 half inning of play. To the bottom of the first inning, South Carolina coming to bat as you're watching the DYB Majors World Series from Lumberton, North Carolina on JockJive.com. South Carolina gets Alabama down in order in the top of the first inning, as South Carolina will have Ryder Manal lead off at shortstop, followed by P.J. Morlando, the catcher. Mason Salisbury at third base, batting third, to begin the bottom of the first inning. We'll go through the rest of the South Carolina batting order here in just a moment. It's the wind and pitch is a strike. Now you can see the flashes of lightning well off into the distance for those of you watching at home, but it's well out of our area and really just something pretty to watch at this point. A first pitch strike, by the way, for Miles Brannon, the lefty, as a grounder past the third base coach's box, foul. Thayer Tavermina batting cleanup at first base. Drew Hayes at second, batting fifth. Cameron Scott will pitch and bat sixth. Landon Gomes in center field batting seventh. Hunter Gomes in left field batting eighth. And Donovan Johnson batting ninth in right field. Charlie Meade, Banks Wickersham, and Micah Anderson, the 10, 11, and 12 batters respectively. Oh, 2 the count on Ryder Manal, as he will take a curveball for a called strike 3. I mentioned in the last game as far as doing some Instagramming when it comes to the dinner that at least the hospitality tent down the left field line is offering, that you can maybe see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. As a line drive goes into right field for P.J. Morlando for a base hit. So just like South Carolina in the first inning, Alabama gets a strikeout defensively for the first out, and Morlando comes up with a hard single into right field. Mason Salisbury, the third baseman, will come to the plate. Batting from the right side, as you can see, South Carolina in their navy blue tops with the white bottoms, as the pitch is high for ball one. Check that, a called strike that time. So the count at 0-1. Alabama in their white tops and bottoms, red pinstripes, also the red numbers, the red shoulder stripes, and also the red numbers and letters with the blue trim. Gives us some time to give you our umpires for this game. Our final game of the day, Jeff Nettles behind home plate. Steve Mardis from Decatur, Alabama at first. Jeff Nettles, by the way, from Florence, South Carolina. Bruno Black at second base from Moulton, Georgia. And from Dillon, South Carolina at third base, Dennis McDaniel. So that's the first visit for Alabama's coaching staff, which includes Carl Bush and assistants Tracy Scott and Garrett Edwards. A pretty lightning show off in the distance that you can see is going to make for a very wonderful evening here in Lumberton, North Carolina. Sure, somewhere probably going toward Wilmington, North Carolina, making for a nice little rain shower as a high pop-up on the right side and out of play. So 1 ball and 1 strike. Runner at first base is Morlando. As Salisbury will step back in from the right side. Pitch on the way. Upstairs, 2 balls and 1 strike. Second day of the DYB World Series for the Majors, AAA, and Ozone divisions here in Lumberton, North Carolina, as the 2-1 is skied foul, right side and out of play. Looking at the schedule of games for tomorrow. And I'll have to remind you all the next inning that as far as that number is concerned, not taking any calls, folks, so don't even try out there. If you're thinking about calling that number. The 2-2 is fouled back to the screen. Something get not from most of y'all, I don't. But just from time to time, have to give that reminder out there just so that you don't waste your energy trying to get in contact with me through the regular way of calling a number. The 2-2 is high and away as the count goes full at 3-2. So now let's take a look at the schedule for tomorrow. So you'll have 4 games tomorrow. 3:30, a couple of games. A 5:45 and an 8 o'clock game as the pitch misses for ball 4. So Mason Salisbury walks on a full count pitch. That'll put now 2 runners aboard. Moving to second base will be Morlando, and Mason Salisbury on with a walk. Thayer Tavermina, the first baseman, has an opportunity to get South Carolina on the board early. The cleanup batter batting from the right side as he will take outside for ball 1. Wind and the 1-0 popped up, and that'll go foul and out of play behind home plate. Defensively for the Alabama State champions, left fielders Will Parker, Connor McKenzie in center, and Mason Edwards in right in the outfield. The 1-1 is outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. Trey Scott at third, the shortstop Bryant Bush, at second base Connor Hutto, at first base Reed Quincy, and behind home plate Xander Scoggins. 2-1, lined the opposite way into right. That drops down, and that's going to go all the way to the wall as here comes the runners around the bases. Morlando will come home to score. Into third base Salisbury, and to second with an RBI double is Thayer Tavermina. So South Carolina off to a really nice start after the strikeout of Ryder Manow. Morlando, Salisbury, and Tavermina have all reached base, and now the first run of the game is on the board for South Carolina as Drew Hayes, the second baseman, will step to the plate. Also batting from the right side as he'll foul off the first pitch. 0-1 the count. First inning, keep in mind for the mercy rules, if we do get to that point in this game, you have to meet all of your offensive and defensive requirements. Plus, you got the 15-run 3-inning mercy rule, 10 runs after 4 for a 6-inning game. 0-1. That breaks in there for a called strike. So no balls and 2 strikes. Infield playing back up the middle and really back all the way around as the 0-2 is popped up into shallow center. That'll fall down for a base hit as easily scoring from third Salisbury. Into third base will be Tavermina as Drew Hayes with a bloop RBI single to center field puts the second run of the inning on the board for South Carolina. So runners at the corners as now 4 consecutive batters have reached base for South Carolina. Big old Cameron Scott to the plate as he'll take upstairs for ball 1. Probably tall and also skinny as well. Probably one of the lankiest but tallest players that I've seen all across the ball yard this weekend. Probably somebody that could play down the road some wing as far as a perimeter forward on the basketball court. The 1-0. Misses outside. 1 ball. Check that, 2 balls and no strikes. So the lefty, Miles Brandon, struggling so far as the 2-0. Lined right off of the glove of the Alabama shortstop, and everybody is going to be safe. Bryant Bush knocked down the line drive. At least for now, saved a run. But everybody is safe as we'll record that as an infield single. That was right at Bryant Bush, but very much hard hit. Landon Gomes to the plate. One of two Gomes brothers at the bottom of the order. Brannon with the pitch. That is a called strike, 0-1. 4 hits so far in the inning for South Carolina. Bases loaded, just 1 out. So Miles Brannon's back already against the wall as we have a baseball come from around the third base area. I think it was a foul ball from over on field number 4. Ozone play going on fields number 3 and 4. 1-0. Hit high and deep into center field as that'll be over the head of the Alabama center fielder McKenzie. 1 run will score. 2 runs will score as Tavermina and Hayes come home from third and second respectively. Cameron Scott to third. Landon Gomes on with a 2-run double. Not looking good for Alabama, as you can double the run total for South Carolina, now up 4-0, and we are still in the bottom of the first inning. Number 8 batter Hunter Gomes to the plate, still just 1 out. Wouldn't be surprised if you see some help for Alabama pitching-wise if this rally continues, as the pitch is inside. Now, probably also have to consider at this point, with both teams in the winner's bracket, that you'll have, I think, at least a couple more games for both of these teams. The 1-0 is high, 2-0. You're definitely talking about 2 games for the winner because you still have the double elimination factor to throw in there. And at the very worst, the loser would have at least 1 more game in the loser's bracket tomorrow. 2-0. Fouled back on the curveball our way. Still 1 out as Ryder Manal struck out to begin the inning. But since then it's been a single, a walk, a double, a single, and a double. So South Carolina with all the momentum in the first base dugout as the 2-1 is outside, called a strike as the count goes to 2-2. Well, it might have been a little outside, but you've got the better view of home of that strike zone, at least laterally, than I do where I'm sitting at. The 2-2. That's downstairs as the count goes full at 3-2. First base is unoccupied, but just 1 out as you have Donovan Johnson on deck. Miles Brannon studying the sign from his catcher as time's called at home plate for Hunter Gomes. Xander Scoggins now giving Brandon the sign, and the payoff pitch fouled off just barely, but Hunter Gomes stays alive in the at-bat. We'll get to those texts in the second inning, rather, in the bottom of the second inning, so we'll hold those off until we get to the bottom of the second. Do have a word for y'all as far as following us on social media, however. Once we get through with this at-bat, 3-2 the count. Another payoff pitch from Miles Brannon is grounded foul to the right side. By the way, you can give me a follow at James Hardy PBP on Twitter and Instagram and Periscope as well. So this is the second day here, second day and the third night as well. Second day, second night. here in Lumberton, North Carolina. Actually, third night came in on Friday night as the 3-2 is grounded over to the right side. That's going to get a run home as the tag of first to get out number 2 for Reed Quincy. The 3 unassisted putout as Hunter Gomes also drives home the 5th run of the ball game for South Carolina as Cameron Scott comes down the line from third. Productive out as well as Landon Gomes to third. So 2 down, add an extra run on the board for South Carolina. As the number 9 batter Donovan Johnson batting from the right side. Fouls it off right back our way. No balls and 1 strike. So that breaks a string of 7 consecutive South Carolina batters that reached base. And so far, 5 of those, 5 of the batters this inning have come around to score. Number 9 batter at the plate, still have the 10, 11, and 12 to go before South Carolina can consider themselves taking care of business as far as their offensive obligations are concerned. Got a momentary stoppage in play, and we'll go ahead and tell you right now that JockJive Sports Productions works small events and large, from T-ball to the Toyota Center, youth sports to collegiate, audio only to a full-scale production for ESPN. We do it all. To find out how we can cover your team or event, email us at info@jockjive.com. We'll have a timeout called. Also, got to give that shout out, at least to our South Carolina roster of coaches. John Hayes, the head coach, also Perry Morlando and Chad Salisbury, the other 2 assistants on the staff for South Carolina. This is our 4th of 4 games here on field number 5. Go and give you another final that has come our way. Actually, a couple of finals, as Florida shut out Alabama in AAA play 5-0. Texas eliminating Lumberton in AAA play 5-4. So it looks as if we're going to have a pitching change already for the Alabama State champions, and we'll tell you who will take their way onto the mound for Miles Brannon after this. New pitcher Connor Hutto coming in from second base will relieve Miles Brannon for the Alabama State champions out of southeast Alabama's Headland, Alabama, but basically a bedroom community of Dothan, Alabama, tucked away in the southeast corner of the state. About a couple hours north of those Emerald Coast beaches in Destin and Fort Walton, as well as Panama City Beach, Florida. So as Hutto gets done with his warm-ups, we'll remind you that Donovan Johnson is at the plate as there is an 0-1 count on the board. Over at second base for Alabama will be Trey Scott, moving from third going to second. And we'll give you who's over at third here in a moment. 0-1 as Hutto delivers as a bunt back to home plate, and there will be no play made. I think Connor Hutto had lost track of how many outs there were because all he needed to do was throw over to first as Donovan Johnson reaches on a bunt single. It looked the runner over at third, which in any other case would have been a good move as Landon Gomes remains at third. But on at first base will be Donovan Johnson for Charlie Meade as the pitch gets high to the backstop as coming home and the slide into home plate for number 42 Landon Gomes as to third base all the way from first is Donovan Johnson. So wild pitch. He'll score run number 6. And going into third, Donovan Johnson as the count at 1-0. Outfield coming in as Meade will take a changeup inside corner for strike 1. So over at third base for Alabama is Mason Edwards. A lot of changes defensively for Alabama with that pitching change as the pitch sails high for ball 1. Cole Shaw comes into the game for Alabama in right field. So Alabama has met at least a third of their defensive requirements as far as their subs are concerned. 2-1 is swung on and missed to even the count at 2-2. 6 on the board already for South Carolina. And they have a runner at third base in the right fielder, Donovan Johnson. Here comes the stretch. And the 2-2 is popped up. Left side, as it'll be the pitcher, Hutto, making the catch himself to retire the side. But the damage is done, however, for South Carolina as they're able to get 6 on the board. So it's 6 runs. We'll cross the plate on 6 hits. There were no errors and a runner left on base. So we're through 1. South Carolina comfortably up 6-0 as you're watching the DYB Majors World Series in Lumberton, North Carolina on JockJive.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the JockJive YouTube channel as we stream all DYB, most youth sports and high school football in the fall to our YouTube channel. And you'll want to know, first, what games are coming your way. Leading off for Alabama, Miles Brannon will take the first pitch for a strike from Cameron Scott. Alabama going down 1-2-3 in the first inning. As Scott winds and deals a ground ball foul toward the third base dugout. Alabama dugout trying to fire up Miles Brannon at home plate, the starting pitcher that gave way in the bottom of the first, rather. As we're in the top of the second as the pitch, a strike as the count goes to 1-2. Scott winds and deals. That's low and in and gets to the backstop. 2-2. Cameron Scott already with 3 strikeouts as he struck out the side to begin the ball game. Lefty-righty matchup as the wind and 2-2. Lined into left field as going back and not able to make the catch in left field for South Carolina's Hunter Gomes is going into second. Standing will be Miles Brannon with a double. So Alabama with their first base runner and first hit of the ball game and first extra base hit while we're at it with that leadoff double. Xander Scoggins to the plate. Scoggins, the Alabama catcher. He'll bat from the right side. As Scott will come set and toss it the first pitch of the at-bat for a strike at the knees. Wind and pitch. Sliced, that is just foul down the first baseline. I know I say this in softball a lot because it's about the same dimensions, actually, not really used to as far as this type of a field, sitting right behind home plate like I am, usually kind of tucked away in a press box during softball season. But really hard for those home plate umpires sometimes as the 0-2 pitch is down low. Kind of a challenge for those umpires, especially behind home plate, to get up out of the crouch and determine a bang-bang play on a fair or foul call. Foul ball off to the right. Now, I know when we're talking Dixie Youth Baseball, just on the pace of play for the umpires, it is a lot different than even, let's say, for Division I softball that I call during the spring, and have been for 5 seasons now. But just at least a little thing that I've noticed over the last few years, however. 1-2 is fouled back. Because I guess as far as the umpiring protocol, when it comes to those fair and fouls on the ground balls, that the home plate umpire does have to kind of assist and lead the way when it comes to those umpires in the field calling fair or foul down the line. 1-2. Swing and a miss at the fastball. Strike 3. 1 down is Xander Scoggins, the 4th strikeout victim for Cameron Scott.
Now batting number 3,
Jaden Rabin to the plate. One of the Alabama reserves, as he'll get his first at bat and stand in from the right side. A grounder over to the right side. Should be an easy play to first base, and it is for out number 2 as Drew Hayes makes the easy toss over to first. Productive out, however, as moving to third will be Miles Brannon. We'll put a pair of outs on the board there for y'all at home. As Brannon to third. Bryant Bush, the shortstop. Also his first at bat as the pitch is taken on the inside corner for strike 1. I'm going to watch that later in the game as the catcher Morlando set up outside, but the pitch was inside as the pitch is swung on and missed. Much better location that time for Cameron Scott as Morlando set up outside and kind of that slider went outside. 0-2. Swing and a miss as the fastball drops down into the dirt. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for Brian Bush. So top of the second inning, Alabama gets a leadoff double but cannot score. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a runner left on base. We go to the bottom of the second inning. It is 6-0, South Carolina leading as you are watching DYB Majors World Series on JockJive.com. We'll go to the bottom of the second inning for South Carolina. It'll be Banks Wickersham leading off for the South Carolina State champions against the Alabama State champions, as South Carolina has the upper hand, up 6-0. South Carolina scoring 6 in the bottom of the first, as they are the home team in this one. We've got that text number on the top right-hand corner of your screen if you're watching us from home. First pitch, a strike, 0-1. And we'll get to some of your thoughts here throughout the broadcast as well. 0-1. There's a breaking ball, must have missed high. I think it was on the outside corner, but was just a little too high. 1-1. As the wind-in pitch is popped up right side. Will that get out of play as going over and kind of misjudging it as it goes harmlessly to the ground over at first base for Reed Quincy. Connor Hutto still on the mound for Alabama in relief of Miles Brannon. And we did see Cole Shaw come into right field for Alabama. We'll see him offensively in the top of the third. 1-2. Is grounded right side and foul. So South Carolina, after this inning, will have fully completed their offensive obligations, having batted all 12 of their players at least once. And once again, we'll get to your texts here in just a moment. 2-strike pitch. Sails away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And we'll go ahead and get to our first ones here for this ball game. As the pitch downstairs, and now we got our first one. Get him, Caleb McIntosh. Love Mimi and Papa. And remember, I know we get from time to time, and no big deal really on it, but we'll take your text for this particular ball game. Three balls and 2 strikes as the pitch on the way is low and away for ball 4. So Banks Wickersham reaching on the leadoff walk. I say the first leadoff batter in 2 at-bats so far for South Carolina to get aboard. To the number 12 batter for Micah Anderson, as he'll get probably his only at-bat of the ball game, has a called strike. 0-1 the count. A little surprised at that call also, as it must have crossed the strike zone initially right around the bottom of the knees. Stretch, and Hutto delivers a bunt that is foul right side, 0-2. Going back to first base will be Wickersham. We'll flip over the lineup after this particular at-bat right here for Anderson. 0-2 as the stretch and the pitch is outside for ball 1. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Final game of the day. The winner plays at 8 o'clock tomorrow against Georgia. As the stretch and the 1-2 lined foul to the right side. We'll take your texts wherever, and be sure to tell us wherever you're watching us from as well. As a swing and a miss on the curveball for strike 3 as Micah Anderson now goes down on strikes. 1 down as we go back to the top of the order for Ryder Manow, the shortstop who struck out looking his first time up. batting from the left side as the pitch high for ball one. Runner still at first in Banks Wickersham. We're in the bottom of the second inning as South Carolina in full control, up by 6. Stretch for Hutto, and the pitch is a swing and a miss for Manow. As the count evens now at 1-1. Starting to get a little more of a breeze now in this night, as nightfall now is descending and has descended fully on Lumberton, North Carolina. 1-1 on the way. That bounces in there and a good stop behind home plate as going to second. Wickersham makes it ahead of the throw. That's a good stop behind home plate for Xander Scoggins, but did kind of release it a little bit late. In fact, just gave Wickersham just enough time to get into second on a wild pitch. Brings the count up now to 2 balls and 1 strike. Now 3-1 as the curveball high. Under the lights here in Lumberton, North Carolina, the Pennington Athletic Complex in the eastern section of Lumberton. 3-1. Inside for ball 4. So Manow walks, gets on base for the first time in tonight's ball game. Keep in mind that South Carolina has now completed their offensive obligations. Alabama still has to get through their entire 12 on the roster for this to be at least officially get to a mercy rule game. As a liner into right field for a base hit. Let's see the go-ahead sign given for Wickersham as he rounds second and scores, and all the way to third base from first will be Manow. As South Carolina adds a run to now take the touchdown lead, up 7-0. P.J. Morlando with his second single and his first RBI as well. Mason Salisbury to the plate, walked and scored in the first inning. Miles Brandon starting, but Connor Hutto in relief as a pop-up foul right side. Over to field number 1. Stretch coming up for Hutto, and the pitch on the way. His line hard into left field, and that will drop down and get all the way to the wall in left field. Easily scoring will be Manow. All the way from first base will be Morlando scoring, and into third, Salisbury with a 2-run triple as South Carolina now up 9-0. Fly ball got past to Will Parker in left field as he tried to make a shoestring catch, and the ball fell in front of his glove and then got past him all the way to the wall. So give Salisbury a triple. 2 RBIs on the play as Thayer Tavermina, who has doubled and driven home a run, will take the first pitch high for ball 1. So 3 runs have scored here in the inning. Keep in mind there is also a 15-run mercy rule after 3. High pop-up to the right side. Let's see if this stays in play as it'll go out of play first base side. Proud of you, Miles. A crowd watching from County Road 7 in Newville down in southeast Alabama. Tavermina standing almost kind of to as furthest left as you can go from where I'm watching in the batter's box, in the right-handed batter's box, kind of as closest to the third base dugout as you can get without being actually out of the batter's box. trying to get that inside portion so he can pull it. 2 balls and 1 strike. Pitch drops low and away. 3-1. Salisbury at third. South Carolina all over Alabama 9-0. It is South Carolina basically has done everything right so far. As a pop-up into shallow right, that's going to drop down for a base hit. That'll also get a run home. As coming home to score will be Salisbury. And South Carolina now in double digits with a 10 spot to make it 10-0. RBI single for Tavermina. 2 RBIs as he's halfway to the cycle. Drew Hayes, his second at bat, also had an RBI single and scored in the first inning. So a struggle for Alabama all the way from the beginning as they have gotten just 1 base runner on as a pop-up foul to the right side. Now, if you want a copy of this ball game, folks, for any games in this tournament for that matter, they're only $5 each. Just email info@jockjive.com. That's info@jockjive.com and tell us what games you want, and we'll send an all-electronic invoice that allows you to pay by debit or credit card, and the games will be on their way to you. That's info@jockjive.com for a keepsake you'll want to have for a lifetime. We've got another text coming in. The Estes family is pulling for Team Alabama from beautiful Eufaula, Alabama. Pitch is grounded back off the glove of Hutto. As everybody know, a good, give the credit that time. Thought that the batter, Hayes, was going to beat out that ground ball, but instead we'll give that a 1-4-3 putout. Productive out as Tavermina goes up to second base, but give credit that time to the infield for Alabama for being able to recover, especially for Trey Scott over at second base for coming up, hustling to get the ball, and then getting the ball quickly over to first base. Very, very nice play on kind of an improvisation type of play. So now 2 down, check that. 2 down, so let's add an out onto the board there for you. As Cameron Scott, the pitcher, to the plate. Scott, a single and a run scored in the first. Pitch, grounded over to the left side. It'll go through the glove of the shortstop into left field. Not exactly an easy play that time as coming home, and let's see here, out at the plate that time is Tavermina as he tried to stretch going to third into home. Almost got there, but thrown out to end the inning. So we'll give Scott a single, and then Tavermina thrown out at the plate. That'll do it for South Carolina, but they do get some more runs on the board. In fact, 4 runs come home to score. 4 runs on 4 hits. There were no errors and a runner left on base. So we're through 2 innings to play. It is South Carolina 10 and Alabama nothing as you're watching the DYB Majors World Series on JockJive.com. Couple of defensive substitutions as Mason Salisbury to the mound. Charlie Meade goes over to third for South Carolina, as we'll flip the lineup card over as Alabama will have their number 8 batter Connor McKenzie to the plate, who will take for ball 1. Got a text that came in. So proud of her nephews, Banks and Micah, on South Carolina. Going to bring home the championship. Uncle Scott and Aunt Shannon watching from Summerville, South Carolina. Going to tell Alabama, quote, good night after 3 innings. As the pitch upstairs. Now keep in mind, do have to remind you as far as that 15-run mercy rule, that you do have to have both teams get through all of their offensive and defensive substitutions. As the pitch downstairs, whether it's a 6-inning ball game or it's a 20-0 game after 1, you have to have all of the players that are on the rosters for both teams get into the field and get in at bat as well. Strike on the 3-1 as the count goes now to 3-2, but it does look as if that South Carolina is well on their way to a W. 3-2 downstairs for ball 4 as Connor McKenzie reaches on a leadoff walk. Many Charleston Revolution players on the team, on the SC team, tell them good luck for us watching from Charleston, South Carolina, one of America's oldest cities out there and historic cities in our great US of A as well. You can possibly hear the Alabama dugout off to my left, at least in my mic, as Easton Boutwell will take upstairs for ball 1. And swings and foul tips the 1-0. 1-1 is the count. We're in the top of the 3rd inning. Alabama trailing South Carolina 10-0, as right now, technically, at least by the letter of the law, the mercy rule not in effect yet. As the 1-1 popped up, and that's back out of play. 1-2. We'll take more of your texts, though, probably at least in the next couple of innings, the way this has been going, as far as the pace and at least who's been dominating the game as well. But we've seen even the last game, North Carolina scored 6 runs in their final at bat, so you always have to make sure that every out is recorded. The 1-2 swung on and missed for strike 3 as Easton Boutwell goes down on strikes. 6 strikeouts for South Carolina pitching, 1 down. Alabama with just 1 hit so far in this ball game. South Carolina with 10 already, as the first pitch a strike to Mason Edwards. Mason Edwards coming into third base back in the 1st inning. Started in right field as Salisbury's pitch at the knees, a strike call. No balls and 2 strikes. Be sure to follow JockJive on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, we're at JockJive, and on Facebook, simply put JockJive Sports in the search engine. 0-2. Called strike 3. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for Mason Edwards as he goes down looking. 2 down, back-to-back strikeouts for Salisbury. So after a leadoff walk, 2 strikeouts, as we'll have the number 11 batter, Will Parker, to the plate as he will swing and miss for the first pitch for strike 1. So if Alabama is retired after this batter, they would automatically go to the 4th inning based on DYB rules as the fastball outside. So it's almost in some ways for South Carolina, you wouldn't mind if you got through the entire Alabama batting order in this inning. As the 1-1 on the way is grounded over to the right side. It's going to be a tough play over at third as the throw to first base, a little low, but in time. As the South Carolina third baseman coming in that time, making a pretty solid defensive maneuver. Charlie Meade coming in, throwing on the run to first base and getting the putout to Thayer Tavermina to close out the top of the 3rd inning. So for Alabama, after that 5-3 ground out, no runs on no hits, no errors, and they did leave 1 on base. So we're through 2.5 innings of play. South Carolina 10 and Alabama nothing as you are watching the DYB Majors World Series from Lumberton, North Carolina on JockJive.com. We go to the bottom of the third inning as right now South Carolina already in range to get a 10-run mercy rule victory. Cannot get a 15-run mercy rule victory this inning because Alabama has not batted around offensively officially in this ball game through their 12 players on the roster. James Hardy with you, JockJive.com. This is the Majors World Series as Xander Scoggins will be the new pitcher for Alabama. And coming in to catch for Alabama, as you know, they've already used at least one reserve so far. But that will be Mason Edwards, who's played right, third, and now catcher for Alabama out of Headland, Alabama, as far as that Southeast Alabama base squad for the Yellowhammer State champions this year. I haven't heard any other defensive. Now I do see Jaden Raybon in right field for Alabama defensively. Also saw Cole Shaw earlier in the ball game. So I believe Alabama has actually met all of their defensive requirements so far. They'll have met all of their offensive requirements in the next inning. Pulling for Headland, Webb, Alabama. Keep fighting Miles from Press and Shaw. Back in Alabama. Matt and Lynn cheering on Banks, Micah and Team South Carolina from on the beach on the Atlantic Ocean in Myrtle Beach. Flip over the lineup card now for South Carolina. It'll be Landon Gomes leading off, and Skies one into left field. And going out and making the catch that time is the Alabama left fielder, number 23 with the play that time. Miles Brandon, the starting pitcher in left field, makes the catch. One pitch, one down for South Carolina, as stepping up will be the other Gomes brother, Hunter Gomes, with his second at-bat, an RBI ground out his first time up. He'll take strike one call as Xander Scoggins comes in relief for Alabama. Go Cameron Choate. That's actually another game. Just keep in mind, folks. Just make sure you know which games you're texting to as far as throughout the various parks, the various fields in the Pennington Athletic Complex. Really not that big of a deal, but just kind of keeping things on the straight and narrow. Tell you some more about JockJive here in a moment as far as what we'll offer you this football season. 2 strikes the count, 0-2 pitch, upstairs for ball 1. Coming this fall to JockJive.com, SWAC football, soccer, and volleyball. Tuskegee football, ACCC Game of the Week, Great American Rivalries, HBCU football, Navarre and Baker High School football, Georgia Military College football, as well as the Gulf South Conference soccer, and more. Check us out often. We are JockJive Sports. There's an 0-2 hole now to 2-2 on Hunter Gomes, second batter of the inning for South Carolina. A grounder over to the right side, fielded at second, and then the throw to first base is in time. Alabama second baseman Trey Scott making a solid play over at second. 2 up and 2 down for Xander Scoggins as Donovan Johnson reached on base on a bunt single his first time up. And check that, we'll have a pinch hitter as Charlie Meade will come in and pinch hit. As our home plate umpire making the official signal to the official scorer in the press box behind us. As the pitch on the way is lifted into center field, coming in and not quite able to make the catch out in center field is Connor McKenzie as Meade reaches on a single. So a 2-out single keeps the inning going as we're back to the top of the order in Ryder Manal. So Manal will get now his third at bat in as many innings, as we'll have a pinch runner also come in for South Carolina. Donovan Johnson, almost kind of that college softball rule that you, as far as re-entering a base runner, re-entering a player into a ball game. So Donovan Johnson re-enters the game as the pitch is a strike, as the throw down, a sharp one for Parkers. They got the runner in a rundown as the throw back is not in time to first base. Tell you what, that was a very solid throw from Parker behind home plate. Had the throw right on the money to the Alabama shortstop Bryant Bush, but the throw late back to first base. So no harm, no foul that time. It's the count at 1-0. Pitch fouled back my way as the count evens at 1-1. I think you saw that foul ball come right back to your screen and also come back to my broadcast location as well. Outfield straightaway all the way around. First two retired, and then Johnson got on with a single. 1-1. Low and away, 2-1. On deck is P.J. Morlando. It's been all South Carolina tonight. 6 in the first, 4 in the second. That's the wind and the pitch to Manal. Swung on and missed at the changeup. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Got the 4 deuces going, folks, as far as that scoreboard poker hand is concerned. 2 balls, 2 strikes with 2 outs, and the number 2 in Ryder Manal at the plate. Hopefully you had that at home as well. Pitch called strike 3 on the curveball, as the throw to second's not going to matter to end the inning. Manal striking out for the second time tonight, both looking, as that'll close out the 3rd inning for South Carolina. So the first time that goes scoreless tonight for South Carolina. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a runner left on base. So Alabama needs 1 to keep the game going, as South Carolina can win via the mercy rule if they can hold Alabama scoreless in the 4th. So through 3, South Carolina 10 and Alabama nothing, as you are watching the Majors World Series here in Lumberton, North Carolina for Dixie Youth Baseball and JockJive.com. P.J. Morlando to come from the catching gear to the pitching mound for South Carolina. As we go to the top of the fourth inning, Alabama will have met their offensive requirements after this at-bat. So Cole Shaw is the last batter that has not gotten an at-bat in this ball game, and as he takes strike one. The Bauer family is watching in Pennsylvania. Way to go, South Carolina. Foul ball back our way. Good job, South Carolina boys. Love you, P.J. Morlando. Love Mason, Terry Jr., Lexi, and Brody from North Charleston, South Carolina. We are pulling for you, Team Alabama, and number 24, Connor McKenzie. You can do this from Joe and Cindy. The 1-1 outside, 2-1. We love you, Mason. Love the Griffin family. Let's go, Alabama. Foul ball back our way. So it'll be Shaw, Hutto, and Scott due up for the Alabama State champions. So South Carolina can get 3 outs without a runner scoring. The game will come to an end as the pitch is fouled back our way. Not a bad at bat. Really some fight from Cole Shaw. As check that. Thought there might have been some contact, and say instead our home plate umpire will say that there was no contact. So with 2 strikes, that will go down as a strikeout. So 1 down. That will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 strikeouts for South Carolina pitching. So let's put the strikeout there on the board for you as there's 1 down for Connor Hutto, who is 0 for 1 and a strikeout victim earlier, as he'll take inside 1-1. Mentioned the winner will face Georgia tomorrow in a winner's bracket game at 8 o'clock right here on field number 8. I'll tell you what the loser will do is a grounder over to the first base bag, as stepping on the first base bag for South Carolina will be Thayer Tavermina. So 2 up and 2 down for Alabama as they are down to their possible final batter. So the loser will play at 3. Let's see here. Yeah, they'll play at 3:30 tomorrow against the loser of Game 10 earlier today. So Louisiana will face probably Alabama tomorrow. And also you'll have Tennessee and Mississippi against North Carolina tomorrow. 1-1 fouled off for Trey Scott as the count goes to 1-2, and Alabama now down to their final strike. Both teams have met their offensive and defensive requirements as Scott back in the batter's box. The 2-strike pitch is a called strike 3, as that will end your ball game. So a 1-2-3 inning as Trey Scott goes down on strikes to end the ball game. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left on base as South Carolina dominates tonight with a 10-0 victory over Alabama. As South Carolina will officially advance to play Georgia tomorrow right here on field number 5 at 8 o'clock, while Alabama will move on into a loser's bracket game tomorrow at 3:30, also on field number 5 against the loser at game number 10, Florida, earlier today. So Louisiana also won here on field number 5, so they will have the day off tomorrow. It'll be Georgia and South Carolina tomorrow as the nightcapper for the winner's bracket game. A big thanks to all of you out there that have texted us and given us your thoughts all throughout the broadcast tonight. So that'll wrap it up for our coverage here on field number 5 for Majors World Series action as part of the DYB World Series. James Hardy signing off, thanking all of our folks from the city of Lumberton, North Carolina, from Dixie Youth Baseball, and for all of our broadcasters here at JockJive.com. Robert Williamson, the CEO, Jason, Marty, Mike, and the rest of our folks here. James Hardy signing off and thanking you for watching us out there across Alabama, across South Carolina, and across the United States as well on JockJive.com. Have a great rest of your night, folks.